Understanding Sapiens, a brief history of humankind. Welcome back, everyone. Before we start, make sure to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Today, we're diving into the remarkable book Sapiens, a brief history of humankind by Yuval Noah Harari, which explores the journey of Homo sapiens from insignificant apes to the dominant species on Earth. This book is not just a history, it's a lens to understand how humans shaped the world and how the world, in turn, shaped humans. Harari begins by examining the cognitive revolution, which occurred roughly 70,000 years ago. During this period, humans developed the ability to imagine things that do not exist, communicate complex ideas, and cooperate flexibly in large groups. Unlike other animals, Homo sapiens could create shared myths, like gods, nations, and money, which allowed large numbers of strangers to work together and build societies. This capacity for collective imagination set the foundation for everything that followed. Next, the book addresses the agricultural revolution, which started about 12,000 years ago. Humans shifted from foraging to farming, which enabled larger populations and permanent settlements. Harari challenges the traditional view that farming was an obvious improvement, pointing out that while it increased food production, it also led to harder work, social hierarchies, and new diseases. People became bound to the land, working long hours, and life for the average farmer often worsened compared to hunter-gatherers. The book also explores the unification of humankind through empires, trade networks, and universal religions. Shared beliefs and common systems like money and law allowed humans to cooperate on a scale that had never been possible before. Harari emphasizes that these constructs, though imaginary, had very real consequences, enabling massive cities, armies, and trade systems. Finally, Harari examines the scientific revolution, beginning around 500 years ago. Science transformed societies, fueled exploration, capitalism, industrialization, and technological innovation. He raises critical questions. How have these advancements impacted human happiness, ethics, and the environment? How do power, knowledge, and imagination continue to shape our world? In short, Sapiens shows that humans succeeded not because they were strongest or fastest, but because they were best at cooperation and imagination. It's a book that invites readers to reflect on the past and consider the challenges and choices of the future. So, if you're ready to understand how we became the dominant species and what it means for the world today, stay tuned. And remember, like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel for more insightful summaries. The Cognitive Revolution: How Humans Became Unique. Around 70,000 years ago, something extraordinary happened: the Cognitive Revolution. This is the period Harari identifies as the turning point when Homo sapiens began thinking, communicating, and imagining in ways that no other species could. Unlike other humans or animals, our ancestors developed the ability to create shared myths, stories, and imagined realities, which allowed large groups of strangers to cooperate in ways previously impossible. Before this revolution, humans were just another animal species, hunter-gatherers, limited by immediate needs and small social circles. But with imagination, humans could plan complex activities, share knowledge, and create social cohesion across groups that never met before. This ability is why Homo sapiens eventually outcompete Neanderthals and other human species. It wasn't physical strength but mental flexibility and collaboration that gave us an edge. Harari explains that the cognitive revolution introduced three major abilities. First, language and communication evolved beyond basic survival needs. People could discuss the past, predict the future, and share abstract ideas, which made cooperation scalable. Second, myth-making emerged. Shared beliefs in gods, spirits, nations, and social contracts allowed millions of individuals to align behaviors toward common goals. These myths didn't exist in reality, but they shaped human societies profoundly. Third, cultural innovation accelerated. Tools, art, and social norms could spread rapidly, giving Homo sapiens adaptive advantages in changing environments. The book emphasizes that this revolution was the birth of human culture. It wasn't just about survival, It was about creating structures, norms, and stories that could unite people in ways biology alone never could. It allowed humans to invent religions, legal systems, and trade networks, forming the building blocks of modern civilization. Importantly, Harari highlights that these abilities are double-edged. While imagination enabled cooperation and progress, it also created potential for deception, propaganda, and conflict. Shared myths can unite, but they can also manipulate. Understanding this helps explain both the achievements and challenges of human history. In essence, the cognitive revolution was the moment humans became more than just animals. They became storytellers, organizers, and architects of shared realities. This foundation set the stage for all subsequent revolutions in human history, from agriculture to science. The agricultural revolution, from foragers to farmers. About 12,000 years ago, humans experienced one of the most profound transformations in history, the agricultural revolution. Harari explains that this period marked the shift from hunter-gatherer societies, where humans roamed in small, egalitarian groups, to settled farming communities. This transition allowed populations to grow, food production to increase, and permanent villages and eventually cities to emerge. However, Harari challenges the traditional narrative that farming was an immediate improvement. While agriculture provided a stable food supply, it also made life harder for the average person. Farming required long hours of labor, planting, harvesting, and tending animals. Hunter-gatherers, by contrast, often had more varied diets and more leisure time. Moreover, the reliance on a limited number of crops made societies vulnerable to famine and disease. The agricultural revolution also led to hierarchies and social inequality. As humans settled, the accumulation of surplus food and land gave rise to property ownership, leaders, and eventually ruling classes. This period saw the emergence of structured societies, with rules, laws, and labor divisions that would shape civilizations for millennia. Harari points out that this created both progress and inequality. Civilization advanced, but individuals' lives often became more constrained and labor-intensive. Another critical development was the rise of religion and ideology to support these growing societies. Shared beliefs in gods, rituals, and social norms allowed larger communities to cooperate and manage resources, much like the cognitive revolution had enabled cooperation on smaller scales. Farmers and city dwellers could now coordinate on a larger scale, establishing trade networks and governance structures that were impossible for nomadic groups. The agricultural revolution also set humans apart from the environment. People began controlling nature instead of merely adapting to it. Fields, irrigation systems, and domesticated animals transformed landscapes, altering ecosystems and giving humans the ability to reshape the world around them. Harari emphasizes that this was not just a technological change, it was a social and cognitive shift in how humans understood their relationship with nature. In short, the agricultural revolution laid the foundation for modern civilization, enabling population growth, permanent settlements, and complex societies. Yet, Harari reminds us that it also introduced challenges, from inequality to increased labor demands, which continue to affect humanity today. It shows that progress often comes with unexpected costs, a theme that echoes throughout human history. The unification of humankind, building a shared world. After the agricultural revolution, humans began living in larger, more complex societies, but cooperation at scale required new unifying forces. In Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind, Harari explains that the unification of humankind was driven by empires, trade, money, and universal religions. These systems allowed millions of individuals, often strangers, to work together toward common goals, creating the foundation for the modern global society. Money, Harari emphasizes, was revolutionary because it created a universal medium of trust and exchange. Unlike barter, which required personal relationships and immediate reciprocity, money allowed humans to trade value across time and distance. This made large-scale economies possible and enabled cities, trade networks, and empires to flourish. Religion and shared belief systems also played a crucial role. Universal religions, legal codes, and moral systems provided a framework for cooperation beyond small tribes. By sharing myths and ethical guidelines, humans could maintain social cohesion and coordinate on unprecedented scales. Harari highlights that these beliefs were imagined orders, constructs of the mind, yet their influence on real-world behavior was profound. Empires themselves became a tool of unification. They brought diverse peoples under a single administration, standardizing laws, currency, and infrastructure. While empires often relied on coercion and conquest, they also facilitated cultural exchange, technology transfer, and economic integration. This allowed ideas and innovations to spread faster than ever before. Harari also underscores the importance of writing and record-keeping in this unification. Written language enabled the creation of contracts, laws, and historical records, ensuring that complex societies could function consistently and transmit knowledge across generations. Without written systems, the coordination of large populations would have been nearly impossible. Ultimately, the unification of humankind shows that our species' success depends not only on individual intelligence but on shared systems of trust, imagination, and cooperation. These structures made it possible for millions of people to live, trade, and work together, forming the first truly global networks. This chapter of human history explains how the seeds of our interconnected world were planted long before modern globalization. In short, Harari demonstrates that humans are unique not because of strength or numbers, but because of their ability to create shared realities that unite large groups. It's a reminder that imagination, when shared, can shape the course of civilizations. The scientific revolution, transforming knowledge and power. Around 500 years ago, humans entered a new era that Harari calls the scientific revolution. In Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind, he explains that this period marked a radical shift in how humans understood the world. Instead of relying solely on tradition or religion, people began to admit ignorance and actively seek knowledge through observation, experimentation, and evidence. This curiosity and skepticism laid the foundation for modern science, technology, and industry. One key point Harari emphasizes is that the scientific revolution was inseparable from empire and capitalism. European nations, driven by exploration and conquest, invested in knowledge about distant lands, natural resources, and human populations. This knowledge fueled trade, navigation, and colonization. At the same time, the rise of capitalism created incentives to innovate and discover new ways to produce wealth. Science and economic growth became intertwined, shaping the modern world. Harari also highlights how science reshaped political and social power. Governments began to fund research to gain advantages over rivals, from military technologies to navigation tools. Knowledge became a form of power, and societies that embraced scientific inquiry advanced faster than those that resisted it. This shift explains much of the rapid technological development seen in Europe and later across the globe. Another major development during this revolution was the industrialization of production. Scientific discoveries enabled the creation of machines, energy sources, and large-scale manufacturing. Humans could now manipulate nature on a scale previously unimaginable, producing food, goods, and energy far beyond the capabilities of hunter-gatherers or early farmers. Harari stresses that this unprecedented ability to control the environment is both a triumph and a warning, as it introduces ecological and ethical challenges. The scientific revolution also gave rise to modern ideologies. It challenged old beliefs, promoted critical thinking, and encouraged experimentation not only in laboratories but in society and governance. This mindset enabled progress but also led to ethical dilemmas, as humans wielded power in ways that could harm the planet or each other. In essence, the scientific revolution transformed humans from species governed by tradition to innovators capable of reshaping reality. It created the modern world of technology, global trade, and rapid change, but it also forced humanity to confront its responsibilities and limitations. Harari's analysis reminds us that curiosity, skepticism, and collective knowledge are the forces that have defined our species' recent history. The Industrial Revolution and capitalism, engines of modern society. Following the scientific revolution, humanity entered a period Harari calls the Industrial Revolution, roughly beginning in the 18th century. In Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind, he explains that this era transformed economies, societies, and human lifestyles on a scale never seen before. Science, technology, and innovation merged with economic systems to create industrialized, capitalist societies that fueled rapid progress and global dominance. Harari highlights that the Industrial Revolution was not just about machines, it was about a new relationship between energy, production, and growth. Humans learned to harness fossil fuels, coal, oil, and later electricity, to power factories, transportation, and communication systems. This unprecedented energy availability enabled the mass production of goods, urbanization, and the rise of a new industrial working class. Life became faster, more interconnected, and increasingly reliant on technology. Capitalism emerged as a driving force of this transformation. Harari points out that capitalism is based on trust in the future. Investors, governments, and individuals must believe that economic growth will continue. This belief fuels innovation, entrepreneurship, and global trade. Money, credit, and banking systems allowed for large-scale investment in industry and infrastructure, multiplying wealth across generations. However, Harari emphasizes that the Industrial Revolution also introduced profound social and environmental consequences. While it increased overall wealth and productivity, it created massive inequalities, harsh labor conditions, and new forms of social stratification. Children and adults worked long hours in factories under dangerous conditions, and urban slums emerged in rapidly growing cities. At the same time, industrialization began to have a lasting impact on the environment, with deforestation, pollution, and greenhouse gas emissions becoming systemic problems. Another critical aspect is global integration. Industrialization made distant markets accessible, enabling international trade, colonization, and resource extraction on a global scale. This interconnected economy allowed some nations to accumulate extraordinary wealth while others were exploited, creating patterns of inequality that continue today. Harari also examines the cultural and psychological effects of this transformation. People began measuring success in terms of wealth, consumption, and technological progress. Happiness, he argues, did not automatically increase with industrial growth, showing that economic expansion alone does not guarantee human well-being. In essence, the Industrial Revolution, fueled by capitalism, turned humans into energy-managing, production-maximizing species, capable of reshaping the planet and their societies. It created both unprecedented opportunities and complex challenges, highlighting that progress is rarely simple or uniformly beneficial. Harari's insights remind us that understanding history is key to navigating the future. The rise of modern empires and globalization, connecting the world. As industrialization and capitalism expanded, the world entered a new era of modern empires and globalization. In Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind, Harari explains that empires not only conquered territories but also connected vast regions through trade, culture, and governance. These empires laid the groundwork for the globalized world we live in today, where distant societies are interdependent and information, goods, and ideas move rapidly across continents. Harari emphasizes that empires functioned on shared systems of trust and authority. They created administrative structures, legal codes, and military control that allowed millions of people to cooperate under a single political framework. While often enforced through coercion, these systems also enabled cultural exchange, innovation, and economic growth. Roads, ports, and communication networks facilitated trade, spreading technologies, crops, and knowledge across regions that were previously isolated. Global trade became a cornerstone of empire power. Harari explains that the flow of goods, money, and labor connected distant economies, creating dependencies and opportunities. Commodities like spices, cotton, sugar, and precious metals were not only valuable in themselves but also drove the development of banking, shipping, and markets. This integration fostered both cooperation and conflict as nations vied for resources and influence. Another key aspect was the spread of ideas and culture. Empires transported religion, language, law, and social norms, influencing millions of people and creating shared identities across vast areas. Harari calls these cultural networks imagined orders, because their power relied on collective belief rather than physical reality. People participated in systems they had never directly experienced, yet these beliefs shaped their daily lives and societal structures. Globalization also intensified during this period. Advances in navigation, technology, and communication enabled global networks of commerce, knowledge, and politics. Empires no longer functioned in isolation, they competed and collaborated on an international stage. This interconnectedness laid the foundation for the modern world economy, international diplomacy, and transnational cultural exchange. Harari notes that the rise of empires and globalization was double-edged. While they promoted progress, trade, and innovation, they also created inequality, exploitation, and conflict. Conquered peoples often suffered under foreign rule, and economic benefits were unevenly distributed. Moreover, global integration increased vulnerability to pandemics, economic crises, and environmental challenges. In essence, the expansion of empires and globalization shows how human cooperation and imagination scaled to planetary levels. By creating interconnected systems of trade, governance, and culture, humans transformed the world and set the stage for the globalized society we inhabit today. Harari's analysis reminds us that our modern networks are both an opportunity and a responsibility. The modern age, capitalism, consumerism, and happiness. In Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind, Harari explains that the modern age, roughly from the 18th century to today, is defined by the interplay of capitalism, technological progress, and human desires. Industrialization and scientific advancements created wealth and power on an unprecedented scale, but Harari challenges us to ask, has this translated into human happiness? Capitalism, Harari argues, is more than an economic system, it's a belief in the future. People invest, innovate, and produce because they trust that tomorrow will be more prosperous than today. This forward-looking mindset drives growth, fuels technological breakthroughs, and enables societies to tackle large-scale challenges. Without this shared faith, markets, banks, and industries could not function. Consumerism emerged alongside capitalism. Harari explains that the modern economy relies on creating desires, not just meeting needs. People purchase not only for survival but for status, identity, and pleasure. Advertising, media, and culture amplify these desires, making consumption a core aspect of social life. Harari observes that this drive fuels innovation and economic expansion but also traps people in cycles of acquisition and comparison. Science and technology continue to shape the modern age. Harari notes that the 20th and 21st centuries brought unimaginable advances: medicine, communication, transportation, and digital technologies. These innovations have extended life, connected the world, and provided new tools to address challenges. Yet they also introduce ethical dilemmas, environmental crises, and questions about the meaning of human life. Harari emphasizes that wealth and progress do not automatically create happiness. Studies, he notes, show that while modern humans are healthier and richer than ever, subjective well-being has not increased proportionally. Social comparison, anxiety, and environmental concerns complicate our pursuit of satisfaction. This observation encourages reflection on what truly matters beyond material accumulation. The modern age also raises questions about identity and purpose. Globalization, mass communication, and technological change challenge traditional cultural and social structures. Harari points out that humans are constantly redefining their goals, roles, and values in response to rapid change. This flexibility is a hallmark of Homo sapiens but also a source of stress and uncertainty. In essence, the modern era shows that humans are not only capable of incredible creation but also of profound reflection. Capitalism, consumerism, and scientific advancement have reshaped societies and opportunities, yet they also highlight the enduring complexity of human happiness. Harari's insights remind us that progress is multidimensional. Material wealth, technological mastery, and imagination must be balanced with ethics, purpose, and well-being. The future of Homo sapiens, biotechnology, AI, and ethical challenges. In Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind, Yuval Noah Harari concludes by exploring the future of our species, highlighting how biotechnology, artificial intelligence, and new technologies could redefine what it means to be human. While the past focused on survival, cooperation, and knowledge, the future may involve direct manipulation of life, cognition, and society in ways unprecedented in history. Harari points out that advances in genetic engineering could allow humans to modify their bodies, enhance intelligence, and eliminate diseases. Technologies like CRISPR, gene therapy, and synthetic biology give humans the power to design life itself. While this promises solutions to age-old challenges, it also raises ethical dilemmas. Who decides which traits are enhanced, and what are the consequences for inequality and diversity? Artificial intelligence represents another revolutionary force. Harari warns that AI and machine learning could surpass human capabilities in many domains, from data analysis to decision-making. While AI has enormous potential for productivity, it also threatens employment, privacy, and social stability. Humans may find themselves competing with or depending on non-biological intelligence, raising philosophical and practical questions about agency, responsibility, and control. The book also examines happiness and purpose in this new era. Harari emphasizes that humans have historically pursued meaning through culture, religion, and social structures. As technologies change what humans are capable of, we may need to redefine the sources of fulfillment. Happiness may no longer be linked solely to survival, social bonds, or material wealth. Global inequality is another pressing concern. Access to biotechnologies and AI is likely to be uneven, potentially creating a new hierarchy of enhanced versus unenhanced humans. Harari stresses that society must consider fairness, governance, and regulation to prevent extreme disparities that could destabilize civilizations. Ultimately, Harari challenges readers to reflect critically on humanity's next steps. We are entering an era where imagination and innovation are no longer just tools for survival or profit. They are forces that may reshape life itself. This future demands not only scientific understanding but also ethical awareness, foresight, and global cooperation. In essence, Sapiens reminds us that Homo sapiens have always shaped their world through cooperation, creativity, and storytelling. Now, we face the profound task of shaping our own evolution, our societies, and our planet. The choices we make today will define the very nature of humanity for generations to come. Conclusion and key takeaways. Lessons from Sapiens. As we reach the end of our journey through Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari, it's clear that this book offers profound insights into our past, present, and future. Harari takes us from the cognitive revolution, which gave humans imagination and the ability to cooperate, through the agricultural revolution, which created structured societies, and onward to the unification of humankind through empires, trade, and shared beliefs. Each stage shows how Homo sapiens became the dominant species not through strength or numbers, but through storytelling, collaboration, and the ability to create imagined realities that organize societies. The scientific and industrial revolutions transformed knowledge, production, and energy use, leading to unprecedented technological and social change. Harari emphasizes that progress is double-edged. While humans gained wealth, longevity, and power, these advancements also introduced inequality, labor challenges, environmental crises, and ethical dilemmas. Modern capitalism and consumerism further shaped human desires, creating complex societies where happiness is not automatically linked to wealth or technological progress. Looking to the future, Harari warns that biotechnology, artificial intelligence, and other emerging technologies may reshape what it means to be human. Genetic engineering, cognitive enhancement, and AI could redefine life, work, and social structures. Yet, these possibilities come with serious ethical considerations: access, fairness, and global governance will determine whether these changes benefit humanity or create new divisions. Harari challenges us to think critically about how we wield knowledge and power, and how we define happiness, purpose, and responsibility in an era of rapid transformation. One of the central lessons of Sapiens is that human history is shaped by our imagination and cooperation. Shared myths, whether about religion, law, money, or nations, have enabled large-scale organization and progress. At the same time, these imagined orders carry risks. They can mislead, manipulate, or create conflict. Understanding this dual nature of human ingenuity is key to navigating both the modern world and the future. In conclusion, Sapiens is not merely a history book. It is a guide to understanding the forces that have shaped humanity and the choices that will shape our future. Harari's work encourages reflection, critical thinking, and a recognition that our species' greatest achievements and greatest challenges stem from our unique ability to imagine, cooperate, and innovate. If you enjoyed this summary, don't forget to like this video, share it with friends, and subscribe to the channel for more insightful content like this. By exploring our past, we can better understand our present and prepare wisely for the future.